You know, Lewis Harris might not have been the longest serving editor of the Augusta Chronicle, but he certainly was one of its most popular editors. Known for his wit and charm, he was almost a celebrity in journalism circles in Georgia in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. The Alabama native came to the Chronicle at age 20 and worked as a reporter and sports and wire editor and staff photographer. He then served in World War II, taking part in the invasions of North Africa and Sicily and earning the Bronze Star. He came back to Georgia after the war and took on several newspaper responsibilities until he became the Chronicle editor in 1959. As a newspaper man, he was known for giving the Chronicle a visible face in the community, not only in reporting events, but also in active public service. As a newspaper executive, Harris was also active as chairman of the community chest, which was much like today's United Way fundraiser. He was a member of the Planning Commission, the Kiwanis Club, and an ordained deacon of Reed Memorial Presbyterian Church. He was known for his sly sense of humor, such as running doctored photos of flying saucers, and these were real saucers, not spacecraft, zooming over Augusta on April Fool's Day. Harris was an active editor, using his military and personal contacts to travel the post-war world and report on the events that were changing it. Here's one thing that a lot of people didn't know about Lewis Harris. He stopped the FBI from smearing the reputation of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The question was most recently raised last fall when the New York Times reported discovery in the files of FBI Chief J. Edgar Hoover an uncensored draft of what has been called the suicide letter. The letter was part of an elaborate effort to discredit King, who in 1964 was about to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. The one-page letter, supposedly sent by an outraged black citizen, but actually authored by an FBI agent, described explicitly King's marital infidelities. The letter writer threatened to go public if King didn't do the right thing, and by that he meant commit suicide. The letter is considered one of the low points in the history of the FBI, which had been very busy tapping phones and bugging hotel rooms because J. Edgar Hoover was outraged at what he considered to be King's moral hypocrisy. FBI officials began to peddle information about King's hotel room activities to friendly members of the press, hoping some of them would discredit the civil rights leader. It didn't work. Today, it is almost impossible to imagine the press refusing such a salacious story. Gene Patterson was the executive editor of the Atlanta Constitution in the 1960s, and he remembered it this way, as told in a book by Howell Raines, a Georgia political writer who later became editor of the New York Times. It went this way, Patterson said, according to the book. I had a phone call from Lou Harris one day, and he said, "Gene, I had a call from an FBI agent over here, and you'd be amazed at what he told me about Dr. King." And I said, "Lou, you mean the sex exploits?" And Harris said, "Yeah, have you heard about this?" I said, "Yeah, the FBI's been to see me too. What are you going to do with it?" And Lewis Harris said, "Hell, I wouldn't print that stuff. That's beyond the pale." Gene Patterson said that he was sure the story about Lewis Harris not going along with the FBI made the rounds of all the other Southern newspaper editors. That's the sort of man that Lewis Harris was. It's the sort of editor he was. And that's why every spring, the West Augusta Rotary Club continues to honor his memory.